Hello and welcome to Caucasian Journal video interviews. Today we are honored to greet Her Excellency Riina KALJURAND, the Ambassador of Estonia to Georgia and Armenia. Thank you very much. You are comparatively new head of the embassy in Tbilisi. How can you summarize your impressions so far?
Thank you very much for inviting me to this interview. First of all, and indeed I'm relatively new, although I cannot say that I arrived recently. It was already 9 months ago, and I arrived in a quite unfortunate time, in the sense that it was in the middle of pandemic, so the normal social life and communication with other diplomats has been very limited and restricted. The traveling within the country has been very limited. So maybe I haven't done as much as I would have liked to have done by this time, and I haven't traveled as much as I would have liked to have traveled. But I still hope that the society and the country will open up, and I can catch up with this a little bit later.
But on the other hand, it's a very unusual time. We all have to to face this new challenge and be creative.
Absolutely, I agree that the times have been challenging in all the way, and of course, maybe it has made us a little bit more creative as well. As I see, how used to Zoom meetings we have all become, all that kind of online communication. And I think it's independent of the generations that people learn new things every day. And it's not altogether such a bad thing. But still, you sometimes you miss this human communication, because before I came to Georgia, I was told that there will be so lively social life in Georgia, so you will have supras once a week at least, so you will gain at least 3 to 5 kilos in the first month, and as a result, I think I have had 5 dinners during the whole period, and I have lost a couple of kilos because of the stress. So, well, yes, but it has also been exciting, of course. Just because it's pandemic, the life hasn't stopped, and Georgia had parliamentary elections in October, which of course is still keeping us all busy. And unfortunately not all in positive ways, but yeah, it hasn't been a boring time.
I see. Well, I'm sure our Georgian readers must note this, that European ambassadors need more supras. You represent Estonia in Georgia as well as Armenia, which are very different states. Unlike the Baltic countries, which traditionally have shared a lot of common values. What is the most relevant Estonian or Baltic experience which is most useful for our region?
Yes, indeed, it is always the case that these two regions are compared, because we are 3 neighbors. We are all small: Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania. And you are not big countries either. Azerbaijan, Armenia, Georgia. Although I'm not covering Azerbaijan, I'm covering Armenia and Georgia. And at the first look, they might seem quite similar as well. But of course, they are not similar at all. They might be similar by culture or food tradition or music or landscapes, especially for somebody who is not that familiar with your history or the situation of geopolitics in this region. But indeed, I wouldn't make a direct comparison. Although what has been very useful for us as Baltic states is that we have discovered that there are areas where cooperation pays off. And one of these areas is, for example, connectivity. This is relatively harmless, and I think that even if you have many differences, many more differences here in the Caucasian region, and you have different geopolitical outlooks, all of you, you seek security from different sources, then I think that there are still areas where you can cooperate, and connectivity is one of them. It's everything. It's starting from digitalization to transport, logistics, and all that. Everybody can do its bit. And I think this helps quite a lot. It gives you an access to Europe, to the world, and I think it also facilitates the communication between peoples, because this is also something that we in Estonia have never experienced difficulties in communicating with Latvians and Lithuanians. We belong to the same side of history, while, for example, when we take Armenia, Azerbaijan, there are huge difficulties, because it's just such a heavy burden of history on both sides, which doesn't necessarily help younger generations. So I think starting step by step in less sensitive areas, you can finally come together and start talking to each other again.
Right. My next question is connected. It's about our common past. I mean, Estonia, as well as our region's countries, have a common Soviet past. And my question is whether this helps you in some way, or does it complicate things, or perhaps this factor does not have, has lost any significance at all?
I think at this moment it still helps. It is relatively easy to be an Estonian ambassador or an Estonian in general, in Georgia, for example. Also in Armenia, because there is a lot of this warm nostalgia over the Soviet past and how people traveled from Caucasia to the Baltic states, and from Estonia to Georgia and Armenia. A lot of warm memories. People remember, people have friends. Because it is in Estonia is kind of funny in that sense that every Estonian knows at least one Finn, and has at least one Georgian friend. So whoever you talk to, they all know Georgians and they all know Finnish people. And many of them, of course, have got their friends from Soviet times. So there is still this nice sort of, I don't even know how to explain this mutual sympathy of nations.
But that's for the older generation or for the younger as well?
Exactly. I just wanted to come to this new younger generation, that I am afraid a little bit that this Soviet past will not make that much sense in the future, because the younger ones who do not remember anything Soviet, for them Estonia will be another foreign country. And it's the same in Estonia, because people, now when the world is open, then people have so many other opportunities to travel, so many other destinations to travel. Maybe Georgia and Armenia will not be the most exotic places where to come. So we need to find other ways how to attract these young people, and actually to carry on this legacy of our old friendship.
Are there any concrete cooperation projects, current, ongoing, or perhaps future projects, which you would like to cover?
We do quite a lot in the area of education here. As we are cooperating with the Ministry of Education and Science, and we have implemented since 2014 the Estonian educational curriculum in 15 Georgian schools. And now these 15 pilot schools in turn are training teachers of 100 schools on a preliminary level, and the Estonian school curriculum will be implemented altogether in 100 Georgian schools, which is quite a big thing. As Estonian educational system is of very good quality. We are front runners when it comes to results, at least, and we think that there is something to offer. But there are many other areas as well. For example, with the help of our Norwegian friends and Norwegian government and Estonian implementers, we are now assisting the local governments in different regions. So we help them how to become more independent, how to manage their resources better, how to actually empower these local governments so that it's not like the central government decides everything on local level, but just to decentralize it and to give substance to this decentralization. But also, I mean, these smaller projects that also many other embassies are doing, how to empower women and how to encourage them to start their own businesses, and how to encourage girls to actually follow their dreams and maybe become pilots or anybody, I mean, that they want to become. So all these things that we think we have experienced ourselves, we can, of course, come and give to our Georgian friends.
That's very important. My next question was, what is most attractive about Georgia and Armenia for Estonians?
I mean, the first thing that comes to my mind, and I think to mind of every Estonian, is the nature, mountains, is of course Batumi and the Black Sea, and it's of course the culture of supras, the culture of your music and theater. I mean, Georgian jazz was very, very popular in Estonia during the Soviet times, where you were one of the front runners of jazz music at that time. And of course, the very famous Georgian ballet. I think every Estonian knows about it, every Estonian loves it. And nice food, nice people. I mean, it is easy to attract Estonians to Georgia, to come here. Even if they, maybe the younger people don't have their personal, maybe friends still, but even Estonian tourist agencies, they are organizing these hiking tours in the mountains, I mean, horse riding, camping, cycling in the mountains. It's all very exciting. And Armenia as well. I mean, Armenian culture. We have a small Armenian community in Estonia who does its best to promote its country. So it's also Armenian food, and also when it comes to Armenia, for example, then Armenia has a very strong IT sector. So we have several kind of professional relations already between our IT sectors, and I think there is a lot that attracts Estonians here, because I mean, you have everything that we don't have when it comes to this. Maybe we are a little bit better organized. Maybe we are we have come further when it comes to development of our governmental structure, state structure, the state of democracy. But there are things that we don't have and you do.
Well, my last question is pretty useless when asking a diplomat, but since you are coming from a different professional background, more from think tanks, I would try. If there is something that you would like to change in our countries or in our bilateral relations, what that would be?
Well, yes, in a way it's a difficult question, because I think as a diplomat you are not here to change anybody. You are here to gather information and also inspiration. And also maybe vice versa, I'm here to maybe to give some ideas or inspire or give our examples, our best experiences to Georgians, how things can be done. But again, sometimes it's up to the mentality very much, because Estonians are more like quiet doers. We want to see the result, so we just do it, and then we are there. I think Georgians are more like, they enjoy the process. They enjoy the playfulness of this process. So in that sense, I can of course come here and I can ask them to do something, and I can show them that this is a very good idea. And they will just laugh at me and say that, yes, of course, it's a great idea, but we just do it in such a different way that the results will be different as well. So it's a little bit like, but I still think that actually you can do so much more yourself as an individual. And what I would like to see in Georgia is a much more kind of civic activism, that you can do and achieve a lot as a citizen by expressing your views, by asking your government to be accountable to you, because you elect them, you give them your vote, so you have a right to demand and require a lot more from them. But don't forget as a citizen that you are also responsible for your own happiness, for your own success, and we can do much more. We don't have to wait for the government to do everything for us.
Well, my questions are basically over, but if you feel like adding something else, the floor is yours.
I can just add maybe a story. It's not even a funny story. It's just like a story that came to my mind when I was appointed as an ambassador to Georgia. And the story began in 2008 when it was just in the aftermath of the Georgian-Russian war, when Estonians were also very much engaged in this directly and indirectly. And at that time I was working in Estonia actually in a center of International Center for Defense and Security, and we discussed the situation in Georgia very often, and people were traveling back and forth. And I remember that somebody brought us a Georgian flag, not a big one, but not a small one either. And this flag was in our room, in my room. I was sharing a room with a colleague of mine, and this flag stayed there for years. And then when we had to move to new premises, so I carried this flag with me all the time, because I thought that how can I leave this behind, and I'm not going to throw this flag away. It's a nice flag. So I was just certain, I sort of cared for this flag for almost
attached to it.
Yes, 11 years, and here I am.
That's
Maybe
really
this was
very interesting story.
A reward.
Very symbolic indeed. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We cover what matters. Caucasian Journal.